Pretty unusual hearing just ended inside a Texas courtroom. At issue whether an 83-year-old woman can remain in Colorado.
9 News Investigates first brought you Peggy Hill's story last night. This afternoon, her son and daughter-in-law are in Texas trying to explain why they shouldn't be held in contempt of court. Chris Vanderveen is joining us now. This story is incredibly compelling. If you haven't seen it, I urge people to go online to watch it to better understand it. So explain. Peggy would like to remain in Colorado.
She does. She told us that repeatedly when we spoke to her recently, but this technically isn't her decision. Her children, one of whom lives in Colorado, two of whom live in Texas, agreed to put her under the care of a Texas-based guardianship last year, not long after a doctor ruled her legally incompetent to make decisions on where to live on her own because of lingering dementia issues. We first met Peggy Hill not too long ago, living with her son and daughter-in-law in Fort Collins. As part of a mediated settlement, her family allowed her to legally live here in Colorado 6 months out of the year and in a Texas assisted living center the other 6 months. But essentially, when the 6 months passed here in Colorado, Peggy Hill said she wanted to remain here. She told us the same thing when we asked her about it.
I got to tell you, I get up in the morning and think I've already died and gone to heaven living here. I mean, I have my 3 youngest grandsons who call me honey. All my grandkids call me honey. I love living here. I don't want to leave. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cry. Why won't they leave me alone? I mean, I'm happy here.
So a decision the judge said something like within the last hour, right?
Yeah, this is something we don't typically cover around here, but it's a probate court decision that was in Texas within the last hour. A Texas-based judge said that the family, at least the daughter-in-law and the son, had to remain here. The Colorado-based daughter-in-law and son have to remain in Texas while the judge waits to issue a ruling, which is expected tomorrow. And really what the judge is going to be asked is, can they be held in contempt of court for refusing, at least maybe in the judge's mind, to send her back to Texas? She does not want to go back to Texas. That's the problem.
And does that come into a judge's decision?
I don't want to get too much in the mind of a judge, but in this case, you have to think that it does. We know for sure that the story that was aired simultaneously at FAA, our sister station in Dallas, and on KUSA last night, we know that that was the subject of a lot of the hearing today. And Peggy Hill certainly wishes to remain here in Colorado, but an agreement is an agreement is an agreement. And in this case, the Texas-based family says, look, we have an agreement in place. She's supposed to come back to Texas. She's not back in Texas. Why not? Judge, you have to step in.
So it's a little complicated too, and that's why people should listen. Anyway, you should all learn about this because it's happening in families everywhere. Yeah. But there's also a surgery she would like to get here too.
Yeah, so she is set to have surgery here in Colorado to deal with hydrocephalus, which the family here in Colorado believes may be partially the reason for some of the competency issues, for some of the dementia issues that she's experiencing. There's pressure in the brain. The doctors go in and can relieve that pressure. What's interesting about Peggy, we talked to her for a long time, while the courts have ruled her incompetent, she very much understands the surgery very well. She talks about a shunt going into her brain, so she knows what's going on. The question is now what's going to happen and how far will a Texas judge go to make sure she gets back to Texas? That is an unanswered question.
Well, stay on this for us because I think a lot of families are very invested at this point.
We will.
Thank you, Chris.
You bet.